the dawn of the 19th century, Birmingham did not rise from ancient stone or royal decree. It grew from smoke, iron, and human will. Unlike London, crowned by monarchy, or Manchester, driven by cotton mills, Birmingham was a city forged in workshops, backstreets, and furnaces. By 1800, it had already earned a reputation as a place where things were made. Small things, precise things, countless things. Buttons, buckles, guns, locks, tools, and machines that quietly powered an empire. Geographically, Birmingham sat inland, without a major river or seaport to define it. Yet this apparent weakness became its strength. The city relied not on ships or tides, but on roads, canals, and ingenuity. A dense network of waterways, canals dug by hand through clay and stone, linked Birmingham to coalfields, ironworks, and distant ports. Narrowboats crept through the city like veins carrying fuel and raw material, feeding furnaces day and night. Coal smoke hung constantly in the air, settling on brick walls and skin alike, turning the city a uniform shade of darkened brown. Politically, Birmingham was unusual. It had no medieval charter, no bishop's seat, no aristocratic core. Power here belonged to manufacturers, merchants, and skilled artisans. This was a town shaped by nonconformists, Quakers, Unitarians, and dissenters excluded from traditional power elsewhere, but thriving here. Their values emphasized industry, education, and self-improvement, and these principles seeped into the city's identity. Birmingham believed in progress not as an abstract idea, but as a product that could be built, tested, and sold. Daily life unfolded to the rhythm of hammers and steam. The streets were narrow and crowded, lined with brick houses that often doubled as workshops. A single building might contain a family upstairs, a forge in the back room, and apprentices sleeping near the fire. Children grew up amid sparks and metal filings, learning trades before they learned letters. Women worked as polishers, chainmakers, and assemblers, their labor essential but rarely recorded. Time was measured not by clocks, but by shifts, orders, and deliveries. The air was thick with sound. Iron rang against iron. Steam engines hissed and groaned. Cart wheels rattled over cobblestones slick with soot and mud. At night, the city glowed. Furnace light flickered through windows, painting the low clouds orange and red. Travelers approaching Birmingham after dark described it as a burning horizon, a place where fire never slept. Yet beneath this energy lay tension. Birmingham's rapid growth brought overcrowding, poor sanitation, and disease. Rows of back-to-back houses trapped families in damp, airless rooms. Clean water was scarce. Waste flowed through open channels in the streets. Cholera and typhoid struck without warning, cutting through neighborhoods with terrifying speed. Progress came at a cost, and that cost was paid by the working poor. Still, ambition outweighed fear. Birmingham believed itself to be the workshop of the world, and the 19th century would test that belief. New inventions, new markets, and new pressures were gathering. The city stood on the edge of unprecedented expansion, its foundations laid in iron, coal, and relentless human labor. As the century advanced, Birmingham transformed from a town of workshops into a city of factories. Steam power intensified production, concentrating labor into larger spaces and longer hours. The small masters of earlier decades now competed with industrialists whose wealth reshaped the urban landscape. Tall chimneys rose above the rooftops, their smoke marking zones of power and profit. Class divisions sharpened. At one end stood factory owners and merchants, living in expanding suburbs away from the smoke, Edgbaston, Moseley, and Handsworth, where cleaner air and quiet streets symbolized success. At the other end were the workers, packed tightly into courts and alleys near the factories. Their lives followed a harsh routine, dawn to dusk labor, 6 days a week, with Sunday offering brief rest and prayer. Work was dangerous. Metal shards flew without warning. Steam boilers exploded. Machinery crushed limbs in seconds. There were no protections, no compensation. Injury often meant poverty, and poverty meant the workhouse. Children labored alongside adults, their small hands valued for precision tasks. Education was a luxury many could not afford, though reformers increasingly argued that ignorance threatened both morality and productivity. Religion played a complex role. Churches and chapels multiplied, offering spiritual comfort and social order. Nonconformist congregations supported literacy, temperance, and reform, while Anglican institutions often aligned with traditional authority. Faith shaped daily behavior, but it also fueled political thought. Birmingham became a center of radical ideas. Calls for parliamentary reform, expanded suffrage, and workers' rights echoed through meeting halls and public squares. Conflict erupted when economic hardship collided with political exclusion. During downturns, wages fell and food prices rose. Bread riots broke out. In 1839, Birmingham became a focal point of the Chartist movement, which demanded voting rights for working men. Mass meetings filled the streets. Tension between protesters and authorities turned violent. Troops were deployed. Gunfire echoed through the city, leaving dead and wounded on the pavement. Birmingham's industrial energy had spilled into political force. Trade defined the city's global reach. Birmingham-made goods traveled across the British Empire, tools for colonies, weapons for wars, machinery for factories abroad. The city's factories armed soldiers and built the infrastructure of imperial power. Yet this prosperity was uneven. While merchants profited from distant markets, workers faced rising rents and unstable employment. Despite hardship, a culture of pride endured. Skilled workers identified strongly with their trades. Craftsmanship remained a source of dignity, even as machines threatened to replace human skill. Public institutions emerged, libraries, lecture halls, mechanics, institutes, designed to educate and uplift. Birmingham believed knowledge itself was a form of industry. The city was changing not only economically, but socially. Reform acts gradually expanded political participation. Municipal government grew more active, addressing sanitation, water supply, and public health. These changes were slow and often resisted, but they marked a shift. The industrial city could no longer function without collective responsibility. By mid-century, Birmingham stood at a crossroads. Its power was undeniable, its problems impossible to ignore. The forces shaping it, capital, labor, reform, and resistance, were tightening, preparing the city for its defining moment. By the latter half of the 19th century, Birmingham reached its industrial peak. It was no longer simply a place where goods were made. It was a symbol of Britain's mechanical dominance. The city's factories produced everything from steam engines to precision instruments, adapting quickly to new technologies. Innovation became its hallmark. Birmingham did not rely on a single industry. It thrived through diversity, resilience, and constant reinvention. Municipal reform reshaped the city. Under leaders committed to improvement, Birmingham invested in public infrastructure. Clean water systems reduced disease. Gas lighting illuminated streets. Parks offered rare green spaces amid brick and smoke. Education expanded, laying foundations for a more skilled workforce. These changes did not erase inequality, but they softened its sharpest edges. Yet the very forces that built Birmingham began to challenge it. Global competition intensified. Other nations industrialized, adopting and improving upon British methods. Machines grew more complex, requiring capital beyond the reach of small manufacturers. Traditional crafts declined. Some workshops closed, others merged, and many workers faced uncertainty. The human cost remained visible. Though conditions improved slowly, industrial labor continued to strain bodies and shorten lives. The city carried the scars of its ascent: polluted air, altered landscapes, and communities shaped by hardship. Progress had been achieved, but never without consequence. As the century closed, Birmingham stood transformed. What had begun as a town of scattered workshops had become a modern industrial city, its identity inseparable from production and reform. It had influenced politics, fueled empire, and reshaped ideas about labor, education, and urban life. The legacy of 19th-century Birmingham endures beyond brick and machinery. It lies in the concept of the industrial city as both engine and experiment, a place where innovation and inequality coexisted, where human ambition reshaped the environment, and where society was forced to confront the cost of progress. Birmingham did not merely serve the Industrial Revolution, it embodied it. In fire and iron, conflict and reform, it forged a model that the modern world would follow, one built not by kings or conquerors, but by workers, thinkers, and the relentless drive to make something new.